All right, so this will be the last of the three on the DroneSense overview. This is the AirBase, and I'm going to kind of go over. This will be more for your fleet management and after-action reviews and stuff like that. As you can see, we're still transitioning to it. We only have 10 aircraft and 13 pilots in there. We have more than that around here, and only 110 flights. So mostly practice, training, and stuff like that. But kind of walk you through it and see what it has. You also see that we haven't utilized everything yet. So I'm just going to go left to right and then kind of come back to the flights and missions. So missions, you know, who's going to utilize that more, I think, would be probably your industry, who's going to plan out a whole day of flying and stuff like that. I'm sure that I'll have in a large search and rescue, large scale operations like that, you could plan a whole mission in there and then save it and then load it up. A lot of your day-to-day stuff, not so much flights. We're going to come back to this, but this saves every single one of the flights that are flown by anybody, by any pilot with any equipment in DroneSense. We'll come back and look at that. Hardware. So this is nice. You don't have to enter any of this as soon as you use it. So if you use a battery on your M210, it's automatically loaded in there. And it'll keep all the information and store it, and then it'll update it every time that it's used, flown in DroneSense. So I'll give you an example. Say we'll just click on this, manufacturer, the model, how many cells, 22 times charged, so on and so forth, right? And this is total flights, is how many times it's been used in DroneSense. You can have all the different information in there, your drones, your maintenance, documents you can associate with it, and everything else. So very nice. The other thing that you can do is you're like, I only want to look at, say, batteries. You can just click that and filter your stuff. So now you're just doing a battery review. Maybe you want to see where a battery's at, everything else. You can also add hardware. Maybe it's not DJI, it's something different, and you want to add it into there so you can add something unique. So you can look at a list, or you can look at the images and everything else. Okay. People, you enter these in. These are basically your accounts, your authorized pilots to fly this thing. And as you go through and enter them, then they can log in and use DroneSense. This is kind of obvious, and you can put all the information in there and their training, proficiency, and documents and everything else. Documents, that's where you can keep your SOPs. You can keep your 107 license, any waivers you have, your COA information, all that stuff that you might want to use and store it in here, and then pull it up from anywhere that you have an internet connection. So it makes it nice and easy, especially if you have to. If there's some kind of interaction with the FAA or any other authorities that might want to see your authorization to fly in that specific area. NOTAMs, you can actually create a flight service account here and do NOTAMs and stuff like that right from inside DroneSense. Obviously, we haven't done it yet. Something that we will probably do. We still running the old ways. Checklist. Remember I showed you the checklist on the pilot app, how it went through, and I told you that can be centrally administrated. This is where it can be done. You can add checklists, and then every one of the pilots in your organization will have that checklist on their pilot app that they can go through. So standardize it across the whole agency. Locations. This tells you, so if you had if you had multiple locations where you're storing UAS equipment, or if you're a response team like this is, you can have all the different locations entered and assign those to the different people. All the people have a location. Then you can click on a map and you can see the different ones and click on one. So this will help you with dispatching on something like a response team and stuff like that too. Reporting, so you can pick a report on your pilots or your drones and generate reports. Over here you have incidents, so you can create a new incident, and you have media policies, so your retention policies for deleting media and stuff. And then media, you can, right now it's on indefinite, but you can drag and drop to upload your media here so that you can store it off for review and different purposes later on, mapping or whatever you need to do. So anyway, there's that, and it kind of gives you an overview. I'm not going to go into depth on all that stuff. I think you kind of get the gist of it. What I do want to go back to though, because this kind of has the wow factor, is the flights. Whenever I was first getting my first day of training on DroneSense, I was kind of amazed by this, that they have this just kind of the wow factor. So anyway, let's go down here to pick a flight. I think there's one down here. I want to see one kind of structured. I think there's this one right here, might be okay. I looked at it earlier. Okay, so you click on a flight, it'll tell you the information: distance traveled, distance from the pilot, distance that the aircraft went from the pilot, maximum altitude, number of landings, etc. You can personnel, you can get the details on them, the hardware they use. This is a Mavic Pro. Details about where it was at, and kind of gives you your flight overview there and everything else. But my favorite part about it is if we view flight. So it loads this tool here, and it's three-dimensional. Right, so and it gives you a calculated view of how far that camera could see. Where this could come in huge handy is, was that area ever observed, recorded? Was it covered by a UAS during the operations? Excuse me. And so you can see here that the camera is pointing straight out as it's flying. You can speed it up. I'm going to let it go normal speed. And you have a timeline right down here. And it gives you all the data, the telemetry data that the pilot was seeing, including MSL altitude or AGL altitude. Now you can see that the camera, see how the camera pointed down at the ground. I can zoom in and I can see from any angle that I want to about the field. Is calculated based on the field of view, his altitude. It also accounts for the terrain. As you can see, it has a terrain model in there, something maybe like Google Earth. Anyway, so I want to show you that. That's pretty amazing. Like I said, you could definitely use this in an after-action review, what was covered, what was seen. If you were recording the whole time and you wanted to know if a certain area on the map was captured, you can definitely look at that. But really good flight review tool here that greatly appreciated. So anyway, that's that tool. And again, we can go back to here and go back to the dashboard here to the AirBase. So anyway, that's this is the AirBase and the overall of the tool. So hope this kind of helped everybody to where you can look at DroneSense and see if it's something that might work for you. It's working really well for us. I'll say one of the questions always comes up, says, Garrett, this sounds great. You showed me this. Everything works really good. That's kind of everything we wanted. So what are the downfalls? What is it on this thing that you don't like? I'll say by far the number one thing that I don't like is that we have to use the iPads right now. Now, I say we have to use iPads now, and that might change later, because the iPads, we've been talking to the DroneSense guys, and they're working on a solution. They realize that the iPads are not really desirable, especially with the crystal skies out. But they're working on a solution, and they think that they have something that'll be usable for us before too long. So that's the biggest downfall to it, really, more than anything. I can't really think of much more that I don't like about it. They've really cleaned up this software. If you looked at it in the past on older versions, they had quite a few bugs in there, but it's definitely worth looking at again if that's something that you did. Like I said, we're starting to use it, and I'm telling you, if we had something that I could use, something besides an iPad that wouldn't shut down in the heat, and that had enough nits where I wasn't having to climb in a shady area just to see my screen, this would pretty much be the be-all end-all. What else could they add to this? Obviously, what would be nice would be augmented reality, and say a plug-in of some sort of something like something that could include outside entities and stuff like that of some sort. Maybe be able to email out something instead or something like that. I don't know, outside connection stuff. It really seems that everybody has to have an account to do anything, and I understand that makes sense, but there should be a real limited ability to go outside there. And I'm sure this is stuff they're working on, but right now this is the most complete package that I've seen out there that does everything that we need it to do. So anyway, hope this helped y'all out, and sorry for some of the long-winded explanations, but that's who I am. So anyway, we'll talk to you later. Bye.